So good morning, good evening, and good afternoon on this latest instant post-game reaction. And I don't know, Arsenal, different Arsenal today against Newcastle, but different opponents. I've got my good friend James Rowe with me. James, how are you, James?
Very well, thank you, Alex. Nice to be on again in short succession as well after midweek. And where was tonight's performance midweek? That's what I was thinking. It, it's nice to put away weak opponents. Of course, it is. But the fact remains, if Liverpool and Man City continue to win their games, we will finish a maximum of third, and a long way to go.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Prosper has just entered the building. Prosper, good evening to
Hi,
you.
hi. Good evening, guys. It's good morning actually over here.
Yeah, quite late. So we won't keep you. The show won't be that long. So Arsenal did the business, and like James just said, it's easy to put away easy opponents, isn't it? Very very easy.
Mm.
Your
Yeah,
thoughts? Yeah, come on, Prosper.
today's game, um, I didn't expect it to be this easy. Newcastle really asked themselves. They just put the nail on their own heads and started hammering themselves. And for me, that worries me. But on the side where, as an Arsenal fan, I want Arsenal to win something this season. We need games like those when the team comes over and it's got cold feet. Like I said last time, if you've ever played football, sometimes your feet just go numb. And Newcastle was just starting the first half. They couldn't even kick the ball out. They didn't know what they were doing. They were passing opponents and they just hammered the nail on their head. The unfortunate part about us is in the first half, we're playing Miki Taka. We're not taking shots on goal. You could literally see, okay, the guy is within range. Then we're still trying to pick a pass. But Newcastle was still out of the game. And if we're not that, I feel that's the easiest game we've had this season.
Wow.
This
Okay.
is the easiest game we've had this season for me.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. James, your thoughts about the game overall?
Well, I listened to it on the Arsenal player, and I worry about young people who hang on the word of commentators because how dare Arsenal get booked? How dare a team comes in our half? How dare a decision goes against us? In football, it doesn't work like that. And I can understand them being for the club. I can understand them wanting the club to win, but this is football, and not every decision goes your way. If an Arsenal player gets booked, it's not a complete travesty. And so I kind of see through it a little bit. It's like a little bit of just too much. It's always good to be positive, but if you are commentating on a game of football, you're supposed to be neutral. And in the case of Arsenal commentators tonight, they just seemed surprised when anything, however dubious, went against Arsenal, and I thought that was a little bit strange. We're in 2024, where some things never go out of fashion. To praise an opponent at any stage is something that still needs to be done. And 12 games to go, 6 at home, 6 away, and then a Champions League home match against a good FC Porto side, and really interesting times ahead. But as Prosper so rightly says, and we're almost matching tonight in hoodies. It's not just a wavelength of good points about Arsenal Football Club. It's also matching on a fashion front, I think. And but it's so important to win a trophy this season. It really is, especially long term. And we've got 2 chances, and we've got to see it through to the end.
Yeah. But is there any chance, Prosper, it might come down to goal difference? I mean, I'm going to stick to my prediction. Man City. I believe Man City will win the Premier, but it's getting a little bit tight now, isn't it?
Yeah. It's getting tighter as we go on. I believe it's nice to see the table like this because it's been a while since we outdid Man City on goal difference. And I was just thinking, wow, this is great. If only we can add something to it because all show and no goal is nothing at all. as I was saying in the last show, we can show all the industry, we can win games by wiping away our opponents, sometimes 5 or 4. But if you don't have any silverware to show for it, people don't remember the 5-0s, the 4-1s. They'll always remember the champions. So if we can push ourselves, I know it's a hard ask to ask of Arsenal, but if we can push ourselves, because on several occasions we've shown on a good day we can be better than a good team. And one of those days was the Liverpool game. You know, we went there, we were cold, and we showed up. And like Newcastle's today, Newcastle didn't show up for the game today. Honestly, they were not an opponent. It was just nice that after the Porto game, they gave us that morale, you know, something to go with again. But they were not an opponent that you could count your league on and say, okay, if we beat Newcastle today, then we can go. And they didn't show up today. It was all Arsenal, all goals Arsenal, all G, even Joe Willock. Wasn't he an ex-Arsenal? It was all Arsenal today on the pitch. So I strongly believe if we can push ourselves a little more, we still got Man City to beat or to play with, right?
And Tottenham, Man United,
Yes.
Aston Villa.
But I'm looking at the teams we are up against for the title. You know, those are the games I would want to show I would want a 65 million player to show up on, because that's a game that decides the league. They're behind you, they start playing catch up. You know, like we did with Liverpool, that was a good thing. We put them down. You know, so I expect the team to beat Man City. You know, and hello, go on.
Yeah, but Prosper, a question: would you prefer to be chasing, or would you prefer to be on top of the Premier League tree?
I prefer to be on top, because when you're on top, say you're leading by 5 games, for the other team to catch up, even when you go a draw, by the end of the season, you might just need a draw to win the league. The others will need to win. So I'd rather be on top. It just gives you that pressure with a good gap, 6 points above is okay. Because sometimes you can say, okay, this game is a tough one, guys. Let's just get a point out of it. We're still on top. You know, but when you're playing catch up, you really need to get those 3 points, and that's where we mess up. And looking at our team on a counter attack, we are not as good. We're usually caught on a counter attack.
Yeah. James, were you surprised it was this easy against Newcastle?
Yes, I think Newcastle, I think they started to believe their own hype. And I think there'll be a managerial change at the end of the season. I think there'll be a couple in the Premier League. I think that will be the same for West Ham and Newcastle, potentially Manchester United if they don't win anything. And I think that Newcastle, I think they just kind of started to believe their own hype a little bit. You know, they almost got out of their Champions League group. It was a very, very difficult Champions League group. And I think they just kind of thought that their financial muscle kind of secures them a little bit. But if you don't get things correct, if you don't get things right in the short term, the long term becomes a little bit irrelevant. So I kind of think they've forgotten about that. And I think Europe's going to play a massive part in what happens with the title race. Liverpool play Sparta Prague, and you would expect them to beat them over 2 legs. Manchester City look as if they've already secured their passage into the quarterfinal of the Champions League. Brighton, they play Roma, and I think off the back of that, I think they'll go through over 2 legs. And I think the away game that Arsenal have at the Amex falls the weekend after their potential quarterfinal and Arsenal's potential quarterfinal should they dispatch of Porto. So I think Europe's going to play a massive part in what happens and in terms of deciding the league title. And it is so important for Arsenal to win a trophy, because otherwise it's 4 full seasons without winning a trophy with massive levels of investment. But you wouldn't know it, because everything around surrounding the club is so positive when they're talking about campaigns for this and campaigns for that and doing this and doing that. Even if you have good intentions, you can't be everything to everyone. And we also seem to be forgetting that we're also a professional football club. We're judged on what we win, and we haven't won anything since 2020.
Yeah, Good point, James. And actual fact, we keep talking about the usual suspects like your Man Cities, your Liverpools, and Arsenal. What about Aston Villa, James? Do you think Unai Emery will be focusing, to try and sustain the top four position there, or what do you think he'll be thinking?
Well, I think they're going to win the Conference League. They play away to Ajax, and this isn't the Ajax of old. This is a very disjointed Ajax that's kind of forgotten their roots a little bit. And I saw that the kickoff times were ratified where the away leg here in Amsterdam will take place at 6:45 local time. So even that dynamic is going to be a little bit strange. But I think that Aston Villa will win the Conference League, and they will gain entry into the Europa League off the back of that. And they'll be fighting with Tottenham for that fourth spot, I think. And whether they can get over the line, I'm not so sure. But to take a team that's gone from relegation candidates to a potential European quarter-final and potential Champions League football, they've also won the Champions League before, Aston Villa. It may well have been a long time ago, but they have won it. They won it in 1982, beating Bayern Munich, and they went from third division to European champions inside a decade, having to sell their best players, I might add, because they were financially up against it. So it just goes to show, but I think he's done a marvellous job. And, Arsenal's loss is Aston Villa's gain in that respect. And I think as time rolls on, it just shows that Arsenal didn't show enough respect, and we make a rod for our own back in that respect.
Prosper, going back to the game this evening, I saw Mikel Arteta make a lot of substitutions, seemingly at the right time. Is he learning his trade now, or is it still he's got a long way to go? Prosper.
At least if there's change, then he's learning. Yes, he's got a long way to go. We saw that against Porto, but at least he's learning. You can't play everyone every day.
Yeah.
You really can't do that, especially at this level of the game. You can't play somebody every day. So I don't think Saliba has been given rest ever since he started playing this season. He's been playing, I think, back to back, and that's not healthy. You up. Sometimes you up even 2-0. I don't think some games you would really have to put him there, because we really need him for the bigger games. As James was saying, the Champions League really plays a big role, even on the domestic league, because if you look at the kind of football we played against Porto, or the kind of game we had against Porto, and the kind of game we've had against Newcastle, those are totally different. You could see the mistakes Newcastle was making, basic mistake, just clear the ball. Yeah. They would try to complicate things. Clearing, it was just 10 meters away. It's back at them. You don't get that in the Champions League. So the amount of energy you lose in a Champions League game is so much, because you have to work extra hard to beat those fullbacks, and just to get into the box, you really have to work extra hard in the Champions League. So I just feel like, okay, today we had a good game. Champions League will have its own challenges, so the manager really has to manage his players quite well. This is the time he has to manage. If we're 2 up, you got to get some of your key players out. My biggest worry is if Saka was to get injured, because there are some shady footballers just like that. They would be like, okay, you can win the game, but you're not going to win the league. And they will just step on one of your key players and give him that knock, and our league is done. So he should be able to weigh now, okay, which players will I need right now to carry me through the finishing line? And if we are 3 up, don't risk them. Just put them out of the game.
Yeah.
Don't risk them. Just put them 2-0 up. It's 60, 70 minutes. Like, okay, guys, come out. Play everybody else who warms the bench.
But I don't know. Am I just looking at this, just black and white? I'm thinking, where was his performance against FC Porto. We see Arsenal. They like the fluidity. They like to play the fast ball, the triangles, little patches of plays. But we didn't how they played this evening. We didn't see it against Porto, or were Porto so good in nullifying, and breaking up the play.
Yeah, and Newcastle wasn't playing today. Let's be honest. Look at the first half. Newcastle didn't even give any pressure to our team. That wasn't playing football. That wasn't football. If I'm a soccer fan, from a soccer fan point of view, that wasn't football. Whatever they were doing in there, they were that Arsenal of, I don't know, way back, just sitting and wait for the opponent to do whatever they want to do to us. Then we'll pick it up from there. They didn't come to play. They were not even, I think they were defeated before they stepped onto the pitch. They had weak minds. Now, if you look at Porto had a game plan. And we're talking levels higher. You didn't see those mistakes that were being made today. Just passing the ball to your opponent like that, close to the 18-yard box. Those things happened like 2 or 3 times in today's game. And we just didn't kill Newcastle off. You see? You won't see that in the Champions League. That's high end. So we shouldn't take the credit away from Porto. Porto is a big team. When they go in the pitch, they know what they're doing. They have the game plan. It wouldn't have been as easy as Newcastle. I doubt that. So let's not take it away. As James was saying, you just don't expect everything to go Arsenal. Even the opponent is good. Porto is a good side. And if we mess around again in the second leg, we're going to have a show of a lifetime.
Well, James, you've been consistent in saying no trophy,
no job.
No job.
No job. And Prosper makes a great point, as he did midweek as well with Porto, about the levels. The manager's been there for 7 years, was a fantastic footballer first and foremost. Sergio Conceição was also a winner. He's managed over 350 games for Porto. They've only lost 50 of them. And people may malign for Portuguese league, but not all of those games were played in Portuguese competition. They've also played a lot in Europe, and they've managed to become a difficult team. All the pressure is on us on the 12th of March. We need to get a goal, preferably in the first 20 minutes. We really need to get a goal in, preferably in the first 20 minutes. People talk about a blitz. People talk about having the game won by half time. We just need to score as soon as possible to gain parity in the game. Because the longer that game goes on and we don't score, the chances that we won't get through are becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. There is a possibility that Arsenal will be eliminated from the last 16 in the Champions League for the 8th time in succession.
Incredible.
For the 8th time in succession at that hurdle. Now, I know managers changed and players change and personnel, but it doesn't make for happy reading. I mean, I will be at the home leg, and should Arsenal not get through, I would have been at 4 of those 8 respective home games. AC Milan in 2012, Bayern Munich in 2013, Monaco in 2015, and I hope not, but maybe Porto in 2024. And, our attitude in Europe has never really been spot on, even in our history, since the days of George Graham. That was the last time we was on the song in Europe, literally. And actually knew what it was to take a game plan to a European team. I know that the landscape of European football has changed, but we don't appear to change with it. We just appear to use Europe as a cash cow. We appear to salivate that we're global. Yes, the landscape has changed, but you must never forget your roots. And I just think that if we don't win a trophy and Arteta is kept on, my response will be, where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line? Because if that is the case, I think I will just vote with my feet, where I will maybe look to go to the odd European game, depending on draw, or a cup game, depending on the draw, because things can get a little bit monotonous in terms of opponents. And we've got a massive couple of weeks coming up. First and foremost, Sheffield United away. next Monday, and then the derby against Brentford and the London derby, and then the big one. Because I really do think if we don't dispatch of Porto, I think we can forget the league, because I think it will be a massive impact.
Yeah. Prosper, do you want to say anything before I go into the live chat on top of what James has just said?
Not much, but I think James has put all the points in chronological order. You got to win the Champions League game to instill that morale and that confidence in everyone. Like, okay, we got a 2-horse race here. We got the Champions League on one side, we got the Premier League on one side. What that game might do in terms of morale basis would be like, okay, we hit in the same roadblock. As it's already said, it will be like the 8th time, so that psychological torture that will be there, or psychological impact that game will have if we lose it, will also trickle down to the Premier League. And I think after that, it will just start falling apart.
Oh my goodness. All right. There's only been a few comments actually in the live chat. I'm surprised because we've had over 100 people just watching us here on the instant post-game reaction. And Omar Tubi says, I'm waiting for Porto at the Emirates. But James, even though we were to score early, I still believe that Porto can score in the second leg. Yeah,
absolutely. We've got to get our game management, our game management spot on. And Prosper talks about the mental block. If you look at the managers that have ensured that, if you go back to AC Milan, Allegri, Bayern Munich, Heinkes, Monaco, Leonardo Jardim, and potentially Sergio Conceição. These are all managers that schooled literally the respective Arsenal manager in terms of tactical ability. Arsene Wenger and now potentially Mikel Arteta. And about the mental block as well, we've also played 6 years in the Europa League and didn't get past Villarreal, didn't get past Olympiacos, didn't get past Sporting. So we don't seem to learn in Europe. We don't. I mean, the season under Unai Emery, when we reached the final and we unfortunately lost, we appeared to be learning very quickly. And it was really good to see just a simple game management, like for example, turning it around against Rennes. They hit the bar and hit the post in that game in the home game in London. I was there, and it could have been oh so different. And the tactical ability against a good Napoli side under the tutelage of Carlo Ancelotti, and the group phase as well against the likes of Sporting Lisbon. We were learning, and it felt good. Felt good to see. It was like a reset, and then we don't let that reset blossom. We think, oh, we've lost the final, we missed that Champions League following season, have a good start and get rid of our manager. And I don't know if I'll ever see Arsenal win in Europe again. I sincerely hope I will, but to have had so many bites of the cherry is slightly embarrassing as well.
Yeah.
Waiting for Porto.
Yeah. Be careful what you wish for. Well done, Arsenal. Keep going. And the last one in the live chat from Ross Morgan says that Arsenal have now scored 25 goals in 6 games. Wonderful stats, but doesn't mean anything if you cannot win major honours at the end of the season.
Exactly. It's so important. As Prosper says, people are not going to remember the goals. They're not going to remember. They're going to remember what we win. But we've got 2 chances. We have, and it comes down to us. It comes down to what we do. But we've got to give it our best shot, and we've got to go for it. Because if we do end up with no trophies this season, then there should be rightfully ramifications. It shouldn't be, once again, nearly there. Where do you draw the line? where do you draw the line? Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Inter Milan, they are completely ruthless in terms of personnel, in terms of making progression, and they know that's why they've got such rich histories. And now we have
Even
also,
Chelsea, don't forget Chelsea. Don't forget Chelsea.
and
Yeah.
Chelsea as well. Chelsea
Yeah.
as well. But I was just giving the example of continental opponents. Obviously, Chelsea is also a domestic rival. They're completely ruthless. You know, we could be like that one day, but we've got to make a start at some point in time.
Mm.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, do you know, we've come to an end on this instant post-game reaction where we've seen a different side to Arsenal. Where was it midweek against FC Porto? Mikel Arteta, you got to learn the lesson. Prosper, thank you again for coming on. I know it's early morning in Malawi. I do apologize for waking you up.
It's early morning. It's almost 1 a.m.
Oh my goodness. All right. Okay, we call it quits. James, wonderful. Thank you again, James.
You're more than welcome. Look forward to next time, and fingers crossed we can get over the line and win a trophy because it's vitally important. As I've said before, no trophy, no job. So, at the moment, 13 games left. So see how-
Just before we wind up, I think Edu's statement just before the season kicked off in the second half wasn't good at all for the Champions League. It wasn't good at all, especially from a sporting director. Some of these things you just gotta keep them inside you, even when you know it, because when as James was saying, when the game is progressing, and we probably haven't scored in the first 10 minutes of the second half, it will start sinking into the players. Well, they didn't expect us to go as far anyway in this. They didn't demand of us to win this. So let's not even push ourselves. You see? So all that comes to play, especially when you're in the pitch. So I just didn't like it. And I feel if we don't win anything this season, as James is saying, not only the manager should go, but even the sporting director must go.
Absolutely. And that quote of just happy to be there, just happy to be there. Maybe he has, as an individual, is happy to be there because no other club in world football would tolerate that. Do you think he'd get a job at Real Madrid? No chance. Do you think he'd get a job at Juventus? No chance.
If a player made that statement, definitely would have been fined something.
Yeah. But that just goes to show the levels, you know. That I remember Edu as a player who scored at both ends against Blackburn Rovers in October 2002. That's what I remember him for. I don't remember him as our sporting director. If you are general manager of Brazil, it's a completely different thing to be general manager of Brazil, where you're just running team affairs and booking hotels and arranging training complexes, and then the next thing you are sporting director of Arsenal. As I say, we appear to be more concerned with activism than sporting achievement. And yes, it's great to raise awareness for important initiatives. It's great, but we can't be everything to everyone. And we must also not forget our roots in the fact that we are a professional football club. We are factually the third biggest club in the entire country, but we don't act like it. Liverpool and Manchester United, they act like it. Maybe Manchester United not at the moment, but they're going through the ownership, but they've still got the rich history of both clubs. Our rich history is slowly being ebbed away, bit by bit, where it's as if we appear to want to placate that with our initiatives. Oh, you know, no more red. Oh, you know, and it's her game too. Okay, fine. But first and foremost, we have to make sure that our men's team are regularly successful in the hunt for trophies. And at the moment, we just appear to be wanting to virtue signal and be activists, and we want to be everything to everyone. But the most important thing is that we are one of the biggest clubs in England. But at the moment, we don't act like it.
Yeah, yeah. There's just been one comment from Apollo from 101 on Arsenal. Good evening, Apollo. I know Apollo went to the game, and he's just saying there, how did we get talking about sacking the manager? Well, Apollo, 4 seasons, and depending on how you're going to frame this, Apollo, not me. Last season, we came so close. We had a how many point gap, and we just couldn't get the team over the line. All
10
right?
lead, 10 point
point
lead,
lead.
ended up in second place, 5 points behind the eventual winner. So that's losing 15 points. If you have a 10-point lead and you throw that away to have a 5-point deficit, well, that tells you all you need to know. My question to the people saying about sacking the manager, where do we draw the line? Would you be happy not to win anything for a decade like Wenger? Is that okay? Is it okay not to win nothing? It's okay to be upset by Chelsea. Chelsea are playing in a cup final tomorrow. They may very well win. They've won something twice that we have never won. And as we said midweek, Chelsea win tomorrow and finish their season winning a trophy. We end up trophyless with glorious failures. Who's had the better season? Who would have had the better season? And as for the people virtue signalling, you are judged on what you win. I was fortunate to interview Dave Kitson, who played for England, Portsmouth and Stoke, among others. And he said something that stuck with me when I would interview professional players and managers at all different levels of world football. Without your history, you are nothing. And at the moment, every passing season where we don't win anything is denting the reputation of Arsenal Football Club. And so that's why I've been saying before the season started on this platform, and I will continue to say it, no trophy, no job.
Prosper, you want to say anything, or are we done now, Prosper?
I think what James has said is a very valid point. Let's not. The one thing I don't like about us Arsenal fans is that we have stooped so low in our standards that I can't even recognize most of the Arsenal fans on the platform right now. Havertz scores a goal, a basic goal that any player can score without pressure. There's all praises. Arteta wins 3-4 games in a row. It's all praises. Why should we sack the manager? But what's the ultimate goal? How much money is he getting? He's getting his salary. Arteta's salary is that of a manager who's winning, who's supposed to win a league. He's not getting mediocre pay at Arsenal. No. He's getting a good package. So if he's getting a good package, let it come with silverware. We're not here to give out free handouts. As James was saying, we're a team of high pedigree. And if we want to do all this charity business works well with your champions, because people want to listen to a champion, to a winner. They don't want to listen to losers. Ambassadors of anything are always people that have won at the top. Are we at the top? So even if we're trying to be goodwill ambassadors, what are we being goodwill ambassadors of? Losing? Failure? I don't know. So for me, he has to go. Where all this is coming from is, you can show all the industry, you can score the 4 goals, you can show the beautiful football, but if there's no trophy to show for it, it's all in vain. That's where it's coming from. So all we want to see is that Arteta carry it on to the end of the season and get something at the end of the season.
Yeah. Just make maybe an unfair yardstick. Well, I'm thinking if Roman Abramovich had been the owner of Arsenal over the last 10 years, would Mikel Arteta still be in his job? I don't think so.
He wouldn't even have come to Arsenal.
Well, yeah. Anyway, we have come to an end on its instant post-game reaction. Prosper, thank you very much. Go and get some sleep. James Rowe, thank you again for coming on the platform. We will have you back very, very soon because of what's come up in the next couple of weeks or so. brilliant stuff. Arsenal, they beat Newcastle convincingly. Didn't see it against FC Porto. Didn't see it. Sorry. So just one more from Apollo, who says, unfortunately, guys, no team has a God-given right to win a championship. You have to earn it through building and transition.
20 years. 20 years.
Again, there we go with the excuses.
20
Klopp,
years.
When Klopp joined Liverpool, did you hear his first speech? He gave himself time. Give me 5 years and I'll win Liverpool the league. And he did it. Is it in 4 years? He gave himself time.
He's won the lot.
Yeah.
He
gave himself. He said the league because we were like, Liverpool's gone. Is it 30 years without winning the EPL, the Premier League? Yeah. So he told them, I'm going to build a team and give me 5 years. I'll win that league. And he won it in the 4th year. Inside that 4 years, he had won the Champions League, I think. You see? So it all comes down to, what is Arteta giving us? Is he giving himself ultimatums? When is his cut-off point? Can this go on for another 30 years? James was saying it might take another half a century for Arsenal to win anything. We might be all gone here. So all we're demanding is, let's have cut-off times. Let's have project end time. The process and transition, we've done a lot of that. We built in the stadium, so we're still paying off loans. 2013, all the loans were paid off. Now, no more processes. We just want silverware. At least if push comes to shove, let's not drop out of the domestic cups like we did this year. That was very careless. And that's why it hurts the most, you know?
Yeah.
Because if you can't win the league, as he's saying, it's not guaranteed that you're going to win. At least show some effort that you want to win something. Not just giving them away, and then at the end of the day, start giving excuses that no. Because by giving away the small trophies, you're saying our main target is the Premier League and the Champions League. Then at the end of the season, you start changing tone again. Then, I mean, are we going to do that over and over again every year?
And as for building and transition, what about Leicester? Almost relegated. Managed to stay up and then pull off a miracle. Was they in transition when they won the league? No. They had momentum, great balance, a good manager, and players that wanted to fight for one another. And they kept going and they kept going and they kept going. And who was the only team to beat them twice in that campaign? We were. But again, football is also a very personal thing.
Yeah.
I like to see my team win things. I like to see my team in the hunt to win things. And, lots of people maybe have more time and think it's okay not to win anything, not to win the main prize for 2 decades. History will judge us. They won't judge the YouTuber with millions of subscribers. They won't judge the anonymous person who will put the different opinion across and then hide behind their keyboard. History will judge Arsenal Football Club on what they have won. And we've got 2 chances left this season to win something this season.
On that note, we are coming to an end. Thank you, Prosper and James. And this has been Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world.